Good day, children. Today we are dealing with one of the most difficult poems in the syllabus, An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum by Stephen Spender. This poem was written against the backdrop of Second World War. Spender was born in 1909 and he died in 1995. He was an English poet and an essayist. He left University College, Oxford without taking a degree and went to Berlin in 1930. Spender took a keen interest in politics and declared himself to be a socialist and pacifist. All of you know, so socialist is a person who follows an ideology of equality, and pacifist, you have come across this term in the previous lesson. Pacifist is one who is against war. Books by Spender include Poems of Dedication, The Edge of Being, The Creative Element, The Struggle of the Modern, and an autobiography, World Within World. In An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum, he has concentrated on themes of social injustice and class inequality. In this poem, he questions the value of education. He suggests that the maps of the world and literature raise hopes and aspirations that will not be fulfilled. But the poet cannot be called a cynic, as he ends his poem on a positive note. He believes that there are people in power who might be able to transport these learners beyond the boundaries of the classroom. In the title, An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum, elementary school means a primary school. The poet takes us to a classroom in an elementary school which is located in a slum. Stanza 1. It begins with an alliteration and it gives a physical description of the children sitting in the classroom. I'll read stanza 1 for you. Far, far from gusty waves, these children's faces, like rootless weeds, the hair torn round their pallor, the tall girl with a weighed down head, the paper-seeming boy with rat's eyes, the stunted, unlucky heir of twisted bones, reciting a father's gnarled disease, his lesson from his desk. At back of the dim class, one unnoted, sweet and young. His eyes live in a dream of squirrel's game, in tree room, other than this. So the alliteration is far, far from. Repetition of the consonant sound, F. Far, far from, gusty waves, these children's faces. The first line is a contrast. So, these children's faces do not have the quality of the gusty waves. Gusty means energetic, vibrant. So these children's faces lack vibrancy or energy, like rootless weeds. So after contrasting them with the waves, in the next line he compares them to rootless weeds. What is the quality of weeds? They are ugly and they are unwanted. So like rootless weeds, these children look ugly and they feel worthless. The hair torn round their pallor, the hair which is untidy, falls upon their face. What kind of face do they have? They have pale face. Pallor means pale face. So the ugly hair, the unkempt hair, untidy hair falls on their pale face. So in general, he describes in the first two lines, he gives a general description of the children seated in the classroom. In the first line, he contrasts them to the gusty waves, and in the second line, he compares them to rootless weeds which are ugly and unwanted. Then he moves on from the third line onwards, he moves on to a specific description of the children seated in the classroom. First, he begins with a tall girl. The tall girl with a weighed down head. The tall girl sits there with a head bending down. Why? Probably burdened with depression due to poverty. The tall girl with a weighed down head. So she sits there in the classroom but she does not raise her head. She's sitting there with her head bending down, probably because of poverty. The paper-seeming boy with rat's eyes. There is another child sitting there. Paper-seeming, seems like a paper. What is the quality of paper? Fragile. Yeah, right. Very thin and emaciated. The paper-seeming boy with rat's eyes. So because his body is malnourished and emaciated, his eyes seem to be bulging out. Moreover, it's compared to rat's eyes. What kind of eyes do rats have? It is gleaming with hunger. So, searching for food all the time. So, the paper-seeming boy. So, this boy who is malnourished and emaciated, very thin, has an eyes which is popping out and is gleaming with hunger. The stunted, unlucky heir of twisted bones, reciting a father's gnarled disease, his lesson from his desk. There is another boy seated there, stunted. Stunted means undeveloped, unlucky heir. It's an oxymoron. Heir is supposed to be very lucky because he has inherited his father's wealth and property. But here, this boy seated in the classroom is unlucky heir because he has not inherited wealth and property. Instead, he has inherited his father's sickness of twisted bones. The stunted, unlucky heir of twisted bones. Reciting means repeating. A father's gnarled disease. Disease. A disease of twisted bones. So what is he repeating? What is he reciting here? He is repeating his father's sickness of twisted bones. Not only that, he is also repeating his lesson from his desk. So, the stunted, undeveloped, unlucky heir. This heir, he has inherited something, but not wealth and property. Instead, he has inherited only the sickness of twisted bones from his father, is repeating not only his father's sickness, but also his lesson from his desk. At back of the dim class, one unnoted sweet and young. At the back of the dim class, a transferred epithet. Why? Here, dim is an adjective which is not only defining the classroom. Classroom looks dull, but also it denotes class representing the students. Here, the students sit with a pale face. The students do not look bright at all. They sit there with pale face because of the malnourishment. So, at back of the dim class, one unnoted sweet and young. At the back of the dim class, there sits a child who is not easily noticed, a sweet and young boy who is not easily noticed. His eyes live in a dream. He's sitting there listening to the lesson, but he does not seem to catch much of the lesson because there is a dream in his eyes. He seems to be dreaming of playing the squirrel's game in tree room other than this. So although seated in the classroom, he is expected to listen to the lessons. Instead, he sits there and dreams of playing the game of the squirrel. What kind of game does the squirrel play? It keeps climbing up and down and hiding in the hollow of the tree. So that is the game that the child too dreams of playing. Other than this, other than sitting in the classroom, he dreams of playing this game. That brings us to the end of stanza 1. So we have a complete description of the children seated in the classroom. Now moving on to stanza 2. So if in the first stanza it was a physical description of the children, in second stanza we get a description of the classroom in which they are seated. I'll read stanza 2. On sour cream walls, donations. Shakespeare's head, cloudless at dawn, civilized dome riding all cities. Belled, flowery Tyrolese valley. Open-handed map awarding the world its world. And yet, for these children, these windows, not this map, their world, were all their futures painted with a fog. A narrow street sealed in with a lead sky. Far, far from rivers, cakes, and stars of woods. So, how are the walls of the classroom painted? They are painted with a sour cream color. Sour, unpleasant, cream color. So, the walls have an unpleasant cream color. And on the walls are placed donations. Donations given by the rich people. What all is there in that? We have Shakespeare's head. Not the literary meaning. Shakespeare's head means a bust of Shakespeare. We have another painting there. Cloudless at dawn. A dawn. A picture of a dawn which looks very bright and not with any clouds. Civilized dome riding all cities. There is another picture of buildings, huge buildings with domes that can be seen in all big cities. Belled, flowery Tyrolese Valley. Tyrol is a province in erstwhile Austria known for its resorts frequented by the rich people. So there is a picture of this resort which is frequented by the rich people, and it also has a lot of bells and flowers to beautify it. Open-handed map. Again, maps which have been drawn according to the will of the rich and powerful rulers. So maps which show areas of progress and prosperity. But if you want to locate the slum, the poverty-ridden slum in the map, you can never find it. Why? Because these maps have been drawn by the rich and they wish to see only areas of progress and prosperity, and so slums cannot be located on such maps. That is why open-handed map, that means drawn according to the will, not the original map, it's drawn according to the will of the rulers, awarding the world its world, awarding the world which they wish to see, not the original world which has poverty all around, but the world which the rich wishes to see. So you have seen that all the donations or whatever hangs in the classroom does not relate to the life of these poverty-stricken slum children. So when they look at these pictures, these aids that have been put up to help them to learn, they can never relate to that kind of life. And yet for these children, these windows, not this map, their world. So yet for these children, if they look at the map, they can never trace or locate their slum in the map. If they want to locate their slum, they just have to go and peep out through the window, and outside they see their original world. What is that? A world filled with poverty. So and yet for these children, these windows, the windows of the classroom and not the map, shows their world, where all their futures painted with a fog, and they get a glimpse of what is in store for them, what is there in their future. Their future is painted with a fog. Their future is not bright. There is no certainty about their future. The future remains uncertain. A narrow street sealed in with a lead sky, far, far from rivers, capes, and stars of words. So outside the window, what do they see? That their future is not bright, it's uncertain. They see a narrow street which symbolizes a restricted life shrouded in desolation. A narrow street, sealed in, closed in with a lead sky. What do you see? And then this narrow street ends with a lead sky. Beyond that lives the rich, and it's a world of progress and prosperity. But their life is restricted within these narrow lanes, and it remains in poverty. And the last line of stanza 2 ends with another alliteration again. Far, far from rivers, capes, and stars of words. Their life is far removed from the literary world which shows the beauty of nature that they get to read in these books, and stars of words. What else is there in the book? There are innumerable words, glorious words have been used to describe the life of the rich, powerful, and the royal people. Again, these children cannot relate to it. I'll repeat once again. A narrow street. Narrow street means a restricted life. What kind of life? A life filled with desolation. It is closed in, and the narrow street ends with a lead sky beyond which they do not have access. Far, far from rivers, caves, and stars of words. And they get to read in these books. They get to see beautiful nature at its best. Beautiful nature represented by rivers and caves, and stars of words, innumerable words, which describes the glorious life of the rich, powerful, and the royal people, to which they can never relate. So with that, we come to the end of audio file 1 of this poem. Thank you.